Welcome to Cut the Sith Reading Club Episode 9. We're an unofficial Star Wars reading club for fans by fans. Today we'll be discussing chapters 9 to 16 of Timothy Zahn's new book, Star Wars Thrawn Ascendancy Chaos Rising. All right. Alex, say hello.
Good evening, everybody.
Young Steve.
What's up? What's up, folks?
Young Yona.
Yo!
All right.
It's not Timothy Zahn.
Yeah, but when you upload it to YouTube, no one can actually see the name.
Oh God, good.
It removes the name, which kind of disappoints me. So, where do y'all want to start?
Wait, so is anyone still listening to this on the fucking audiobook?
Alex.
No.
I am.
Is it horrible or are you okay? You picking it up?
Honestly, I will sit here and continue to plug the audiobook.
Okay.
Yes, actually reading is a beautiful and a very enjoyable thing, but I know I've said it 1,000 times, but with the Star Wars books, it's kind of like just closing your eyes and you're right there in the movie, or you're right there in however you want to categorize it at the end of the day. So I'm a big fan of the audiobooks, and truthfully, I think the audiobooks help me keep it in order, keep everything, streamlined and systemic, instead of like, crap, was this back here or was this over here? So.
Steve, your book, right?
Yeah, me and Steven reading it.
Yeah, I've been reading.
Colin, do you have the text I sent you maybe like a week ago? Do you know what I'm talking about?
You sent me a lot of text, so the text you sent a week ago is not a good help.
Hold on a sec. It was the one about why would you need a Skywalker if you've got a navigator and you've got a ship that can fucking detect an Ewok fart from a planet.
Well, because most of the time they don't have navigators. I think they just use the Skywalkers. I think when he hired Pulori, that was for like a special assignment type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So most of the time it's just the Skywalker doing the navigating.
Man, if I'm 5,000 years in the fucking future in a different galaxy far, far away, you better believe my spaceship knows exactly where it's going all the time.
Star Wars takes place in the past.
A long, long time ago. Yeah.
In a yeah.
Beyond a galaxy far, far away.
And yeah, alien technology of the smartest mother effers ever. And so
I've always wanted to know, speaking of alien technology, and I don't even know if this really comes up in the book or anything like that, how does the Wi-Fi work in Star Wars? Is there Wi-Fi?
They use the fucking Skywalkers to connect everything.
So they're like the mobile hotspots, basically, for all the just
They
ships.
don't run into
I
any
would say it that way.
satellites when they're flying out there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I am warming up to Cheery a bit. Like,
You don't like her? That's my girl.
it's not that I didn't like her. I have always liked her, but I guess the best way to put it is at first I felt she was kind of annoying. I guess
She was totally judging that other one, calling them a kid when she was like, what, 2 years older than her?
That's what I'm
Like
saying.
not even like 1 year older than her.
That's what I was saying. I was like, listen, sweetheart, back off a little bit, all right? This is a child. Let her continue to be a child a little bit. Just because you're painfully melodramatic about everything, let at least one of the Skywalkers who's enjoying being a Skywalker be a Skywalker, all
I
right?
enjoyed her and Thrawn together. That
Me
was
too.
adorable.
I really liked Thrawn letting her pilot the ship and everything, and like the moment where she's realizing she's not being ordered to do something, she's being asked to do something, and like he's giving her the reins and like showing trust in her. I liked that chapter a lot. That was probably the highlight of this stretch of chapters for me. I couldn't really talk too much about the intrigue or any of the other stuff going on, just because like a lot of it was very hard to follow. But like little moments like that. Yeah.
There's a part, I think it's chapter 9, which was the first chapter we had for this section, where it starts out and I think the character's name was Octremo, and they just start talking, and I was like, I'm pretty sure it's the first time this character's been introduced, but they're like conversing with this person like they've been here the entire time, and I'm supposed to know who this person is. I was very confused.
I think for me, that's kind of one of the It's like, yeah, I will admit, even for me, who I feel like I'm following along pretty well with most of the stuff going on, like even like the little side and subplots of everything, like there is a lot of information. I feel like also because, especially, for me, it's all original info. There's really nothing going on here that is linking this, or at least at this point to me, that is linking this to anything else, in the Star Wars galaxy. Like, sure, fine, they call them Skywalkers, but to me, that's about as close as this book has gotten to something that I guess would feel objectively like familiar for Star Wars.
Well, and the Force, the third
Well,
sight.
I forget who said it last week, but it's like they're having a big old conversation, and then next thing you know, they're on another ship in disguises. I think also, like, I'm having the hardest time following it. Like, I can go back and reread whole pages, and it still is like, what? But the thing I actually was saying to my fiance is it's like reading Game of Thrones, but everyone's name changes as the book goes on, and their names are like Schmagua.
Well, it's because they jump back and forth between like their like proper name and their like basic name, and then
their core name and their original family name.
When you go to the memories, they got different names because it was before they were like adopted, and like Aralani goes to like Iziara in the memories, so it's like it all swaps back and forth.
That was one of the things that happened most recently in the memories, was her shedding off her family name from the Arizi and just, taking on the military career and dedicating herself to the military and being Aralani from that point onwards.
Is that a choice that they can make, or when they get that rank in the military, do they have to drop off the family?
I wonder, because Thrawn wouldn't have had to do that. He still kept his full name. Even after leaving the Ascendancy and like going to scheme with the Empire.
Hang out with Lord Palps.
I guess for you guys too, I mean, I only know Thrawn from the old school not canon stuff, and yes, I've seen him on Rebels, right? And Colin, you shared with me that video of what happens in Rebels.
He wanted to know if he died in Rebels, so I sent him a video in the last episode.
Yeah, like I reading this book as first time, never knowing Thrawn, I don't care for him. And I think, Steve, you said this before too, though, is it's like everything we get about him isn't coming from him, it's people observing. And I think that's why I'm having such a hard time being like, yeah, you know what? This guy's a lot of fun to follow. I do not get that.
I feel like maybe it has to do with if you have that backdrop and if you have that context. Like 2017 Thrawn, the first Timothy Zahn Thrawn book that he prepared for New Disney Canon, I would say objectively is very strong. It does a great job setting up Thrawn. He's got like these Sherlock Holmes types, like, mental deduction things, mind palace type stuff. And like, you get a glimpse in his psyche, and I haven't read the entire original Thrawn trilogy or Outbound Flight or any of that other stuff, but like, I believed Thrawn 2017 might have been like the first time you actually get his inner monologue and his inner narration. So like, that to me was more of a solid and accessible jumping on point for this character. Whereas this one, I feel like it's a little bit less accessible, kind of to your point, what you were saying.
And I'm going to keep plugging along, but for me personally, would I buy this again or read it like 5 years down the line?
So you're joining us in 2 weeks?
What'd you say, Colin?
You're going to join us in 2 weeks? You're going to finish it?
Yeah, I'm going to push through it, but it's just hard. It's definitely one of those books, bless you. It's definitely one of those books that I am struggling through. Not like it's a total chore, but I am having a hard time with it.
I think Sierra is too. I think that's why she's not here tonight.
Fortunately, our next couple of books, we got an audio drama about Dr. Aphra, and then Lost Stars, which is a young adult novel. So both of those should be a lot easier for us to digest and sit through.
But
yeah, I don't know. And then I like plot-wise, they're just after some pirates, right? That mess some stuff
Yeah,
up.
so
That's it, right?
here's my thing, and I think me and Steve talked about this a little bit. I don't give a shit about those pirates and what's going on with that. I care way more about the inner workings of like the Chiss Ascendancy itself.
Yeah, I'm
And,
here
like,
for the world building.
Yeah, like there was a lot of that in this section, this part too. Like when you find out the entire planet's basically frozen, and they have a most of the population moved off world. Those that stay behind are all underground now.
I
Outside of
really
like
liked that.
a few like 100 that rotate on the surface to keep up the appearance that they're not off world, that they actually, so they can like make, it's basically they're peacocking to make sure no one like invades them. And they said it themselves that it's to show for, I think Aralani, when she's playing the Thrawn, she says about tourists, trade partners, and enemies. You want to keep up the appearance that the planet is just like functioning as normal, even though there's only like a couple 100 million left of 4 billion.
Yeah, I'm happy you brought that up, because I loved like that striking realization, like especially with how much the ascendancy had been built up throughout this whole book as like almost like this mythical the thing that it's not even a couple 100 million. I made sure I wrote it down. At any given point, there's only 70 to 80 million Chiss in Sheila at any given moment. And in comparison, they put out numbers to the rest of the chaos.
8 billion.
Yeah, that they're populated by 8 billion. I'm just like, that's a ballsy move.
Stuff in those census. Yeah.
So like if these pirates haven't attacked them yet because they think they have a strong military unit, because here's the other thing that's annoying about the Chiss. They don't strike. They only strike back. They don't strike first. They don't strike hard. They don't show no mercy like my guys at Cobra Kai Dojo. They wait to get attacked, and even if they get attacked, it's like, well, let's make sure it was a good attack before we go and fight back.
All out, yeah.
Yeah, there is a lot of...
General Yiv could take this planet in 2 seconds if he knew that there was actually like that many people there. Except for one, mitth'raw'nuruodo. Because this book would be 15 pages if these fucking Chiss kept their politics out of the way of Thrawn and just let him do what he wants. Because Thrawn would shut these pirates down in half a fucking second. And we'd just be like on our merry way. Instead, they just keep getting in his way every step, and he still keeps outsmarting them. And that's what
you gotta have a story. You gotta have a story, right?
I don't give a shit about General Yin, the Nakardoon, the Liao, the
Leo, and okay,
Arwians, all these other peoples.
Thank you for listening to the audiobook. I'm gonna pronounce this stuff now. I appreciate that.
I can't even imagine listening to that.
Taking one for the team.
Like flowered and fun to listen to, but I can't, like the names and stuff. And as we were saying, you go to the memories, they've got a different name. Some people call them by a different name. Then you hear them with their normal name. Yeah. I don't know how you're doing it, man.
What about that?
Honestly, I think sometimes with these types of books, it's easier, or maybe it's just me in general. It's like even with school, it's like I always fared much better with just dialogue or just listening to somebody lecture as opposed to sitting there and reading it myself.
I don't even consider the whole thing going on with the pirates to be the plot of the story. I just think it's the MacGuffin that moves the plot forward, because the plot is literally Thrawn against the incompetence of the Chiss Ascendancy and Thrawn's companions. Because like even everything about the Ascendancy themselves, their inner work is like the Game of Thrones type shit, like Yona was talking about. That's cool. That's cool to me. Like when Talia straight up invoked trial by combat. When he was like, I'm gonna get you if you don't give me dirt on Thrawn, which is some straight up like Littlefinger shit. He was like, if you don't give me dirt on Thrawn, I'm gonna have you. Who's that? Like Thurfian that said it to her?
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm just gonna have you sent back to your original family that like you don't even remember because they were before you were a Skywalker. And then she's like, well, you know what?
She was shook by that.
She's like, she activated her trap card. She was like, oh yeah, you want to do that? Well, guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take my trials, and then You can't stop me from taking my trials. When I take my trials, you can't do shit to me.
I really liked how they lampshaded the exposition on that too. Like she's explaining it, and he's just like, "Thank you for explaining my own family's policies to me."
Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, honestly, I know
Trial by
that.
combat. I'm so excited. There better be some combat in those
You were
trials.
hoping for that. I remember you got what you wanted. So
Yeah, because like you said, it's like with this, the thing with the Nick Ardoon, the Leo Leowans, and every other of the 35, different species from the chaos that
Folks
have
knows
come
how to
into
pronounce
this.
the names.
Well, thank God. Otherwise, my spelling's off. I can't have my pronunciation be off too. But it's like truthfully, I'm enthralled by the Like I like politics as it is, in real life. But like here, it's like, yeah, it is kind of like Game of Thrones. There is a lot of backstabbing. There is a lot of corruption, and you do this and I'll take care of this and all this type of stuff. So truthfully, like Colin and Steve have been saying, like that to me is the actual storyline going on here.
I have
And
another question.
Mhm.
So when Thrawn was undercover, they clearly knew it was Thrawn. Did he know that they knew it was him?
I'm sure he must have.
So there was like no
1,000%.
point to that.
Yeah, what was that all about?
I wonder if it was to
personally didn't
try and.
understand it.
I wonder if it was to try and like paint him as more vulnerable and like not as omniscient as
Mhm.
he seemed to be.
I like how
Or
he
something.
made up an entire story about the Chiss having hostages, just so General Yer was like, "Whoa, there might be other things about the Chiss that we don't know about them because we didn't know about the hostage thing." I'm
Yeah.
like, all right.
It's like, to me, truthfully, and I like this because I've never read this book. All this stuff is all original to me.
Mhm.
To me, as of right now, everything that's going on with the pirates, the Nick Ardoon, I see that as this is all stuff that Thrawn has actively made to come to pass. With every single, the way the memories have been building, and especially with some of the most recent ones that were in there, I just got this feeling that everything we're seeing, in the present in the book are all the brainchild, and everything is unfolding exactly the way that Thrawn had been planning it, because he had gotten so much pushback about a preemptive strike. Or, he looked at this from the beginning as a threat. So he said, okay, I'm going to manipulate the rules to my own advantage so that at the end of the day, it's going to look like they ended up coming at us.
That was badass when he
We
stole the
swiftly
ship,
destroyed
fires on his own ship, and then who was it? Zistomi was like, "Well, that's clearly Thrawn." I was like, "Well, we don't have any proof of that, so let's just act like we got attacked."
them. Mm-hmm.
We have no proof it's Thrawn. He's like, "It very obviously is Thrawn." I was like, "Well, we don't know."
We don't know for certain. Yeah.
Yeah, like even as him disguising as, the again as the art collector.
His name's something Master Sorvo.
Yep, that sounds
Yeah.
about right.
It's like, even that to me, it's like he literally went out of his way to devise a stupid plan on the surface, and to make it seem to everybody else like, oh, this guy is either way too arrogant or thinks we're way too stupid to know that this is, because obviously he knew that navigator, Kilori, he knew that navigator was there. He knew it was Thrawn. They had been together on a mission.
Yeah, he was ready to. He was biting at the bit to get Thrawn chewed up and killed and all that. And
There is parts of this and I'm like, all right, Thrawn's kind of too smart. Because when he was like, all right, me and Frangelic built this crate together on the ship on the way over here because I knew we'd have to like steal a ship, so we're gonna wait. And so I had them ship the crate so it's in the cargo bay. So we're just gonna sit there and wait for it for a couple nights. I was like,
That's
all
like some Death Note bullshit, right? It's just like, yes, these are the layers of my plan. This is exactly as I planned.
That's actually, not to get off topic a bit, why I fell off Death Note in the beginning, because I was like, all right, they're jumping to too many conclusions. They would not be able to connect all these dots. This just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I definitely get that sense. I felt like Actually, the first Thrawn book that I read fully to completion was Alliances, the one where he teams up with Vader, and then it's like intercut with the story of him teaming up with Anakin Skywalker during the Clone Wars. And that one I actually didn't really care for a whole ton as I was reading it, because I felt like his intelligence was coming at the expense of other established characters having to be the idiot that's like, I don't understand, explain this to me. And like, I feel like that's definitely a struggle that you run into when you have characters as brilliant and, you know, intellectual and being such strong and savvy tacticians as Thrawn. Like, that's definitely something that you want to try and avoid as an author.
There's something I should ask you guys then.
Mm-hmm.
In April, we're supposed to read Alliances. Do you want to swap that one out for 2017?
I mean, I'm fine with Alliances, but we can swap it out for 2017 because I feel like that might be a better jumping on point for Thrawn.
Yeah, that's a better flavor of
2017 is a better book. The only reason it was set up that way is because there's a comic book adaptation of 2017, and we were going to do that before. But I'd much rather actually just read 2017.
Yeah, let's just read 2017. We can table that offline.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back to this. The thing that I'm struggling with, again, is I don't need this to be a Star Wars book, but if I'm just reading about these characters, for me, it's like, it is a lot of world building, but I feel not connected really well to any of them besides the one that, you know, she's a Skywalker. The only reason I'm like, oh, Skywalker. Like, that, I don't need this to be a Star Wars book, but yeah, just having a tough time really relating, and especially to Thrawn.
Truthfully, I think since the four of us have now decided, us in the Ascendancy have decided that we're going to do 2017 Thrawn, I was going to say, like, I've read some of the Legends stuff, but
just finished the third one for the Legends.
Yeah, well, with the new canon, the 2017 just Thrawn novel is the real first taste I got of Thrawn, and truthfully, it made me fall like head over heels with him. Like, and I can understand, Jonathan, like where you're coming from with this, because truthfully, I was expecting a bit more of, like, not to give too much away, but the 2017 Thrawn book always starts with a quote. And especially for me doing the audio side of it, I would 100% recommend it because Mr. Mark Thompson does a spectacular job.
Who knows? You know, I could read the 2017 and then want to go back and try this again or give it another shot. But
I feel like, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No.
No, I feel like having 2017 as like context helped me appreciate this book, Thrawn Ascendancy, more. Otherwise, it is a little dry. It is a little dense. There are a lot of characters, and I mean, I still enjoy it, but objectively, it is a very dry, very dense book with a lot of it throws a lot of information at you.
Yeah, so. my first introduction to Thrawn was in Rebels. So, and by then he was like, that's literally in the canon, the last story he has on this timeline so far. So it was like the end of Thrawn. So it was peak Thrawn at his best. And it was multiple episodes of him just doing all this badass cool shit. And also being being into art and shit. And then I did the 2017 Thrawn book. And like Steve was talking about it earlier with his like inner monologue where he's just like breaking down people. Like, dude, the audiobook of that, I've said this before, it's like straight up ASMR listening to him do that.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's really good.
Like, he's talking about like sweat dripping down like their forehead and stuff. He's talking about like how fast their heart's beating and everything. This man it's the same thing he kind of does where he looks at the art and he can tell, like, based on the art, what like species battle formations are and what their battle tactics will be just by looking at their art. He was in the 27, but he was looking at people and just looking at the way they were dressed, the way like the sweat was coming down, that how like fast their heart was beating, like knowing how they were going to react in certain moments. It was truly like Sherlock Holmes.
It was entertaining to read. And I feel like that in part is what made that book so compelling, is just that you have that first look at his inner process. and you can actually see that for the first time. Like, you get his perspective. You don't just look at like the Commander Pelions or the Eli Vantos or the Talius or Arlanis or whatever, like all his followers and like, you know, the people that are confused by him, or the people that, like, you know, maybe they're just sycophants like Price. But, you know, in Thrawn 2017, you actually got a sense of what made him tick. And arguably in Ascendancy, you know, not having that look into what makes him tick makes him a more mysterious and compelling character. And like, you know, he is objectively one of the most charismatic leads and antagonists in the franchise, period. But I wonder if it really doesn't do that many favors within the context of this novel, I guess. Am I articulating myself okay? Or?
You are.
No, I think you are, because and I'm happy that most of us have read the 2017.
Yeah, and that's the thing,
does
because
give
I
us-
know the three of us have. Yona hasn't. Sierra hasn't. So it
Mm.
really only leaves Ryan. I'm not sure, and I know that Yona and Sierra, from talking, have been the two that I know have been struggling the most with this book. And I don't know if Ryan's done 2017 or not. But I know Yona and Sierra haven't read it at all.
Yeah, because I was gonna say that this one, like even for me, like I said, I was taken aback by the stark contrast from the way that this one is, the perspective from which this book is written in comparison to the 2017 one. You know, the 2017 one, let's just be real. Thrawn's interpersonal communication skills are, you know, unchartable, and me being, you know, not to be lame or anything, but me being a legal assistant and an investigator, it's something to aspire to be like. But you know, I do agree with Yona that if you were just coming into this one completely dry from Thrawn, yeah, it is leaving a lot of mystery, and I can very easily see how this is leaving a lot of mystery and confusion to a reader.
Yeah, and it's tough. Like, don't get me wrong. I love science fiction. I love horror. I love world building. My bookshelf is packed with random science fiction crap, and this world I'm having a hard time getting into.
Because I feel like too, some of at least to me, the more important parts of the world build, you know, actual world building as opposed to the society and how the politics works, is also kind of like a side note. Like, okay, we are finding out these things about the population, but to me, this whole population dysphoria, an issue that's going on, is a completely political thing at the end of the day. You know, not for nothing, yes, even with 60, 70 million people on Chila at any given moment, it does kind of still seem like the military branch of the Chiss, they're doing all right. They're fine.
Yeah, yeah.
It seems like they are strong enough and smart enough at the end of the day that they could take on, to an extent, almost any of the enemies. But as much as I am liking this book. I am truly enjoying it. I do like knowing how other people feel about Thrawn. There is that little piece of me that's still kind of clamoring for, can we be in Thrawn's head now?
Yeah.
You know, don't get me wrong. I love Arlani. I think she's a great character. I think she's a fun, passionate, strong character throughout all of this. But I want to hear some serious deduction that I need to go back 10, 15 times to go back over to truly understand at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
True that.
So on the topic of Aralani, how thirsty is she for Thrawn?
Very. And he is either asexual, he either just can't read her signals at all, or he just straight up does not care. Because
I feel like it's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B with him, honestly. I feel like he's got more pressing priorities to really attend.
Yes.
It
Yes.
doesn't matter in the long run.
Yeah, at the end of the day, Thrawn before anything is a duty man. Before, you know, any type of personal gain or accolades or anything. You know, I feel like with Thrawn, the accolades that come with him performing something well are simply a side thing.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting too to see him like kind of this out of his element, like, you know, to have someone kind of showing him affection or like having a real genuine interest in like what he's talking about and what he's saying beyond military value or strategic value or something, like actually being invested in him as a person and like offering to let him crash at her family's estate, or like, you know, let's train in the dojo and like tell me more about your art obsession and fascination and stuff like that. And the fact that like when the Arizi try to poach him and like take him out of the Mitt and like to join the Arizi, he goes to her and he's just like, I don't really know what I'm doing here. Like, is this a good call? And I thought that that was very interesting just to see him like acknowledge a vulnerability in this area and like to ask someone else for help like he did. So
I agree with you. And at the very end, like I'm pretty sure the last time in one of the memories that we see there, she's like, want to get a drink?
very boy, yeah.
You know, I really love their little relationship they have going on right now, because it, you know, one of the, at least to me, one of the running tropes for Thrawn, regardless of what medium he happens to be in, is his lack of that political understanding. You know, not even that. And I mean, I know you guys understand what I mean, but for the viewers out there, you know, at the end of the day, Thrawn isn't very politically savvy. He's not going to sit there and bend a truth or, you know, outright lie about something just for some form of a political gain. You know, at the end of the day, he strikes me as the type of man where it's like he's going to be way too honest in comparison to how anybody else would want him to be. So I do kind of like that little piece of him, that it's like, for all this objective logical ability you have to break down battles, and you know, from the smell of somebody's farts you completely understand how they're going to attack you at the end of the day, that, you know, he is completely lacking in that day-to-day type of savviness that should be coming along with somebody at such a high rank in any type of military that he has at the moment.
So these they were members in like the present that they were talking about of the Arizi family. I think it's Zistomu and like maybe someone else who just don't.
Can you say
like
that again?
I can't pronounce these names at all.
Zistolmu, I think. Yeah,
But
you were close.
they don't like Thrawn, and we never really get that explained. Is him turning down the invitation to join their family, because that was in the memories? Does that where it stemmed from?
That could be. I mean, I honestly feel like a lot of people resent him because, you know, for all the attention that they put into all this cat and mouse, like sharpening our claws, like political intrigue, either he just, honestly, I don't even think it's that he isn't savvy in that. I think he just doesn't care. I think he just wants to cut through all the red tape.
And they all have made it clear that they want him because they know that he's like just straight up the best like tactician that they have. And they don't agree with his motives unless they can use that to their advantage, and they all want him on on their families, so
and
they
to
can just
cripple the Mitt at that rate too. Yeah,
because they all have these weird blood rivalries with each other. Like, who was the rivalry that they were talking about between the Bodil and someone else? It was in one of the chapters. Hold on, I'll look it up. You guys continue talking.
Did you guys notice from some of the other families that they brought it up, especially when there were, or even from the Myth family? I forget that syntax name that has been blackmailing essentially Thalius for the info, but Thurfian.
Thurfian.
Did you guys notice that now it's multiple members of different families, that it's not even so much a love or adulation towards Thrawn and his tactical abilities? It kind of seems to me that every one of these Chiss members want Thrawn on their side simply out of fear.
It seems like that.
Yeah,
Very Machiavellian. Yeah.
yeah,
It's like because like Steve was saying, it would be to cripple the other families. They want Thrawn because they would be taking away a key rival's strongest player.
Mhm.
They don't even care about having Thrawn. They just care about weakening everyone else.
Yeah, but for me, even further than that, like at one point when Thurfian's talking about it to Thalius, he brings it up. No, excuse me, he was speaking to Arlani about it, and he has a quote where he essentially said that if you can't see the danger that Thrawn poses towards the ascendancy, it's not that he said it. I'm paraphrasing, but if you can't see the danger that Thrawn is posing towards the ascendancy as a whole, that's because you're choosing not to see it.
Mm.
To me, it seems like everyone's really worried that Thrawn's going to, work his way up essentially into a coup and, take the ascendancy as his own.
Kind of off of that, I found what I was looking for earlier. It was in the same memory where we find out about the Chila just being like covered by ice and shit. It was so it was when he saves that liner, but he doesn't. The liner gets destroyed, but he saves like 8,000 lives.
Yeah.
And the person who was fault, it's very clearly the fault of like the pilot of the liner. But the people that own the liner weren't gonna fault the pilot of the liner because their two families are in alliance together. So the only person they could blame was Thrawn. So they take it out on Thrawn. They take his ship from him, and that's when Aralani is like, "I'm gonna make you my first mate or first officer on my ship." And it was when they were going to, I think they were going to her homestead at that point, or they were going to his trial. I think it was to her homestead, and that's when she starts telling him about like all the shit going on with the planet, like stuff like, yeah, you're not supposed to know this, but you know what? They fucked you over pretty bad. You may not care about it, but it pissed me off.
And she's just like, you're gonna find out about this sooner or later, so just act surprised. He's just like, oh, okay.
So I was like, damn. So yeah, it's all just family politics. These chiss.
Mm-hmm.
There, and I wonder because I'm not sure if in 2017 they tell us what's really much that's going on with the chiss at the time. I haven't read it in a year, so I don't actually remember it. I want to know because I have a feeling that eventually these chiss fuckers might even work themselves into near extinction because they are too into like protecting their status as opposed to actually protecting themselves. It's with the whole like we don't attack unless there's like a serious threat. Even if like even if like one of their like officers got killed, it's like, well, they have to be of a certain rank or higher for us to even give a shit that they got murdered. So and anytime Thrawn is like, dude, Thrawn is laying out a plan that is very easily happen where he's basically showing it's like, look, they are General Yiv in the Cardoon are recruiting and enslaving basically every planet that surrounds us and building an army. We have to stop them or make allies with the ones that they haven't conquered yet before they wipe us out. And they're like, no, the Chiss don't react unless they're attacked. And it's like, all right, you guys are gonna get wiped out eventually.
Yeah, I agree with you. Their politics is, it's like modern day policing. It's simply reactive. They're not actually going out of their way to try and investigate something that is building right in front of their eyes. They're simply, they're looking at the poisonous scorpion as they're laying down next to it and saying, oh, okay, well, it could be poisonous, it could not be, but how are we going to know until it stings us?
You know what this? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, most people would rather not get stung, period.
Do you know what this book kind of reminds me of, Colin? I know that you're a Godzilla fan, right?
Godzilla.
So this reminds me of the movie Shin Godzilla from 2016, where it's like a modern day reboot. The director of Neon Genesis Evangelion created this movie, but it's basically like there's an attack on the coast of Japan, and rather than like taking any sort of immediate action, they just shuffle from meeting room to meeting room to meeting room, like all these different task forces and task squads, and like just so mired down by bureaucracy and red tape and policy and procedure that like by the time the threat actually hits surface level and like gets into town and starts messing everybody up, like there's nothing they can do because they took their time and like they didn't do anything to neutralize the threat. It just reminds me a lot of that. So
it's like, I'm not saying that the Chiss should be going out of their way to just subjugate people or anything like that, but I forget who brought it up, but they were essentially talking about the isolationism of the Chiss, and they were essentially, I think it might have been Aralani who was not arguing with Thrawn, but they were discussing it, where she was like, oh, what, are we just supposed to be the protectors of the entire chaos? And it seems like all the Chiss are completely black and white in that angle. It's either they're complete and total isolationists. There's, they will not react to anything.
They're like fucking Yoda.
Yeah, they're not going to react to anything that isn't actively attacking them, or in their view, then if they're not going to be isolationists, then they need to go out and solve every problem in the chaos.
It's like, no, this is going to be, they haven't attacked us yet, but they're very clearly assembling an army by conquering every surrounding planet. And eventually they're either going to try and conquer us or destroy us. There's only one of two ways this goes. And we have to put a stop to this now, but you guys don't want to put a stop to it until they are literally at our doorstep with like a dozen warships. And then by then, yeah, like Steve said, it's going to be too late to do anything. It's going to be too late. They're just going to wipe us out or conquer us.
It's like the Night King.
Yeah, but he went like a wimp.
Listen, Arya got lucky. Okay. Let's be real.
That whole episode
Arya got
sucked.
lucky.
That shit was
the last book to come out. When George R.R. is long gone.
He's not going to write anymore. He got
No,
too signed
no,
for
no,
HBO.
he has no reason to write anymore.
He made more money on like one season of
He's
HBO
got
than
his
in all of the books.
ghostwriter,
He's not doing this
Ryan
anymore.
will live. He'll ride it to the end.
Maybe Sanderson will take over for him.
He's the guy who did the Wheel of Time ghostwriting, because it will be him.
Because here's the thing too, he doesn't.
Same guy who filled in for Robert Miller, whatever.
Because even though he didn't like they didn't copy his book for the last season, they had his cliff notes of what's supposed to happen. So he basically saw like the reaction to that. It's like, oh fuck this shit, I'm definitely not writing this now. So yeah, he's gonna wait till he dies and let it go for it and take it over.
Like no series has damaged its credibility overnight to the degree that Game of Thrones did with that ending. So we're getting mad off topic. I'm sorry, guys, but
don't worry. I was about to drag us back in, boys.
All right, what you got?
All right, Alex, what do you got?
I was going to ask you guys. So, what do you think these trials are going to be like?
We want to talk about that.
Colin,
I know that would excite Colin.
Jumped with a start. Oh man,
I'm hoping it's Hunger Games. There's a bunch of different merit adoptives that they throw in as like just the last Chiss out as a trial born. Let's go. And it's from all different families. So it's like you be killing merit adopters from other families in your own. It's like, all right, you come out and you're just like, I'm a trial born. The rest of you are dead. Sorry. But it's not going to be that, but that's what I want it to be.
I feel like it's going to be like the SATs almost. I feel like they're just going to go.
Oh, I hope it's not like that. That would be terrible.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I feel like it's going to subvert our expectations, though. Because I got very hopeful when we were reading Master and Apprentice.
I want you to be
trying to keep my expectations low this time.
What was that thing in Harry Potter, that stupid goblet contest that they were doing?
Oh, the Triwizard Tournament.
Yeah, that. I saw the movies, but I didn't really care that much about Harry Potter.
Please don't let that happen.
I hope it's like the Triwizard Tournament.
I'm just trying to keep my expectations.
What if it's a game of Quidditch?
Truthfully, my expectation. Oh God, it's not going to be a game of Quidditch. Truthfully, my expectations are, I guess, not super high, but I guess for me, with how sophisticated and elite the Chiss come off to be to the rest of the world, I'm kind of hoping it's savage. But like, I'm kind of hoping Colin is somewhat right along those lines. Like I want to see the Chiss get a little fucking brutal.
There's like one merit adoptive from each family that's trying to become trial born, and they throw them all into like a stale cage, and the last one left standing is Trialborn.
See,
Like,
what's going to happen is they're all going to go to some lecture hall. Alice is going to look
It's gonna be
down,
the
and in front of
tuning
her
exam.
is going to be like a fucking blue book exam. And it's going to be like, all right, take your Questus in hand, and I want a 5-page essay on the rise and fall of just society, like thousands.
It's gonna be the written exam from Naruto and the tuning exam, where the only way to pass that was by cheating, but you had to cheat without getting caught by using your ninja powers. She has to use her just like deductive reasoning to like cheat off somebody without
Not
getting
every just is deductive reasoning.
excuse me.
A good deal of them seem to. but-
She's studied under the tree of Thrawn.
Fair.
Although it seems like none of them get it until Thrawn's like, "Are you sure?"
You might want to check your work there, buddy. Yeah.
I really
They'll
hope it's
frown
not
at
some
each other.
written exam. That would be a bummer.
There's too much frown in this book. I told that to Steve. Every other sentence ends with like, and then Thrawn frowned at her.
Yeah.
And then Talia
He's not an
frowned.
expressive guy, but like there's got to be other ways to say that someone frowned or that they like.
You just said they looked puzzled. You don't have to say they frowned every time.
You could just say that like they look impassive or
Yeah.
unreadable or whatever.
Every
Yeah, I don't know.
Just-
I feel like Timothy Zahn in general needs a thesaurus because I noticed that a lot when I was reading Heir to the Empire. Like, you know, before the darkness took him, like I noticed that he ended a lot of his chapters like anytime a character passed out, it would be like before darkness took them. Like his last thought was, and I'm just like, all right, Timothy Zahn, this is like the third time you did this.
I'm trying to remember what the Vampire Trials and Cirque du Freak were like, but I haven't read that since middle school. But those are
I've never read those ones.
Cirque du Freak is my favorite book series. The first book was I wouldn't read books when I was a kid, and then my 5th grade teacher gave me the first Cirque du Freak book, and I read that, loved it, and it's like 12 books in the series, but they're all young adults, and they're all like under like 250 pages, so they're super fast. I read them all in a day. And there's either like the 3rd book, I think it is, he has to go through like some trial to become like an official like a vampire.
Mhm.
And the fucking trials and that were awesome, I remember, but I just don't remember what they are. Are there like just animals? Like, are there animals on this planet?
I'm assuming there has to be something
Or
subterranean.
did like everything die?
Right?
No idea.
Do they
Gotta be
import their
eating
food? Yeah, are they importing it though from like the other planets?
Or is
'Cause
it
what-
all like
What's
you know,
Napora or whatever that was called? Is that a moon or is that another planet?
how do you spell that? I'm gonna look
It's
it up.
Naporar. It's when Thrawn's talking to Talius because she asks him, she goes, you didn't grow up on Chila or Scylla or whatever it's pronounced.
Chila.
Yeah.
It's a location in the Chiss Ascendancy that contains a med center.
Okay, so that's,
That's
not real.
really all it is.
Yeah, because what he says, because she asked me, he goes, you didn't grow up on Chila. This is like your first time here. And he goes, yeah, I did most of my training on Napora.
Okay. Well, I'm assuming that.
So I didn't know if it was like a moon or if it was like another planet nearby with a bunch of Chiss lived on. I guess it's just like a med center in space that Thrawn grew up on.
My question too is what led to this massive diaspora where it was 8 billion, Chiss at one point. That like what is the mechanism that essentially caused, this exodus?
She explained it as the sun like started producing less heat, so the planet's top froze over, and then everyone fled because the planet froze over. Most fled, and the ones who didn't went underground.
Well, you get more heat from the core. So.
Yeah, but I'm just with the way they've built up in the beginning chapters, the Chiss, this elite society. In my head, I'm like, okay, if they were losing the sun, and they could sustain, that they could quickly develop the tech to sustain 70 to 80 million. Why couldn't they sustain mostly everybody? So, and with all the lying and BS they throw around to one another, I don't know. I'm hoping that it's not as simple as just a natural event that caused it. I'm kind of hoping there's something more to it.
It's gonna be like when the Earth starts to die, and all our rich people head to the moon that
Elon
Elon
Musk.
Musk built, his moon base. They all head to like the Mars
To Donald Trump's moon casino.
to the Mars station that Elon Musk set up, and then us poor people that can't get on, like Elon's, like, what's it called, the Red Rocket X or something. We can't get on that, so we have to stand down here and end up in that like terrible Will Smith, Jaden Smith movie.
Or like Wall-E. Yeah.
Wall-E would be better.
I'd never seen Wall-E.
I was gonna say
What?
It's
so
a cute
good.
movie, dude. You should watch it. It's
I've
good.
said this to you before.
Alex,
Colin.
It's really good.
Alex used Wall-E to explain something in Star Wars to be like compared it to Wall-E. I remember what it was, 'cause it was a couple months ago.
I completely forget it, but I know at least on the Wall-E side, I was talking about how humanity essentially just sits in chairs all day long.
Yeah, well, that's what the Chiss do apparently, because they don't want to take any.
Hey.
If the Chiss Ascendancy was just like, you know what, we trust your judgment, Admiral Aralani. If you and your first officer, senior captain Thrawn, want to go out and deal with these pirates your way, you know what, we trust your judgment. Go do it. General Yiv, the Nicardoon, the Vac, the Lion people, is Prime a planet or a people? There's so many.
Yeah, let's.
The point
I don't
is,
know.
Aralani and Thrawn, if they were actually giving power over the Chiss military to actually go and confront these guys and like stop them from whatever the hell is about to happen, because this ain't even. And first off, too, this isn't like Minority Report where it's like we're like predicting they're gonna do something bad in the future. It's like, no, they very clearly have attempted to do something. They've done something on all these other planets. They're amassing an army, and they've come at us a couple times. But because it hasn't been big enough attacks, or because you think Thrawn may have shot first, allegedly, that we can't like attack them. No, if they gave Aralani command over the army and was like, you and Thrawn, do what you gotta do to protect the Chiss people, they would wipe these dudes out in a page and a half.
Yeah.
Page and a half. Because Thrawn is so much smarter than them. And not only just Thrawn, Aralani is way smarter than everyone on that side too. Like, she's not Thrawn level, but she's probably only like, I'd say, a couple points below the Thrawn.
She's pretty competent. She's hyper
Yeah.
competent, I would say.
I think like she just doesn't pay attention to all the weird stuff Thrawn does, like art.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I feel like the Thrawn Aralani relationship is almost a beautiful master and Padawan scenario. You know, if we want to relate it to something else from Star Wars, where even though Thrawn came in after Aralani had came in, Aralani was a bloodborn. I forget, you know, an actual member.
She was blood.
Yeah, biological member of that family, not an adoptive or anything like that. Like, to me, it's a fun little. I feel like Thrawn really brings it out of Aralani.
What's the next stage after Trialborn? Actually, I could probably just look up in the book. Hold on. Because they were talking about if Thrawn becomes that, if he passes his trial, he becomes Trialborn. After that, he becomes ranking distant. Once he becomes ranking distant, he's untouchable. And they even said like his like blood would mix with theirs, so even his kids would technically be bloodborns, even though they technically don't have the myth blood. So that was weird.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just so. I don't know, man. It's just weird. This whole fucking relationship with these people is weird because it's like, so like the bloodborns might not even be blood related. I'm getting at because it's like, I don't know. Yeah, this whole switching of families with the Chiss thing, I do not approve because eventually there's going to be some incest along the way.
It's like the I don't know, fantasy draft almost. Who wants to draft Thrawn onto the 9 ruling families? They had to sacrifice. The Arizi had to sacrifice their first round pick so that they could try and like snag Thrawn in a free agent deal.
Yo, this fucked up how she just like left them high and dry. They were like, sweet, we have this high-ranking badass military official. And she's like, you know what? Leaving you guys. Dedicating my life to the military. And like, you know what? we're going to kidnap Thrawn. And Thrawn, I assume, turns them down because in the present, he's not part of their family.
Yep. That's not his name.
It was like when I was like, I'm pretty sure Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are going to survive Master and Apprentice and still be Jedi and Padawan. I assume Qui-Gon's going to turn down the council and keep Obi-Wan as Padawan because he had him in the first movie. But my guy Thrawn, I don't know. I honestly just think that he sometimes might just be too smart because it feels like, because I know Timothy Zahn has said in the past, like the only thing that can beat him is things he can't predict. But it's like, I don't want to say this because I'm a terrible writer. That kind of seems like bad writing if that's his only weakness.
Yeah, I feel like to me that could also essentially mean that,
Which
Thrawn's biggest threat is
actually,
himself.
now that I say it though, so that was back when the Rebels was happening, and I think it was like right when the 2017 book was coming out.
Okay.
I do like how that, and that's why I'm hoping that it's not just him not caring about politics, because I would like politics, like that shit, to be an actual weakness of his, that he does not just understand any of this shit. Because he needs a flaw, because as much as I love Thrawn, he has not really had any flaws. He is the definition of a Mary Sue. Like, he has had no flaws at all this book so far. Everything he has wanted has gone his way, and I assume that's going to happen for the entire trilogy.
I hope not.
I don't know. Will it? Will
I
it?
don't know.
I'm kind of hoping that this trilogy is going to bring us up to that absolute highest epsilon of Thrawn highness and all things good that are Thrawn. And then I wanted to plummet us right straight down. And I want to see essentially what led to Thrawn being on that planet by himself. X, Y, and Z. I want to see what's really going to drive him away from
The second book is going to end
chaos.
with Thrawn holding Sherry's dead body in his hands. It's all going to be his fault.
No.
It's going to be, what is that, Infinite Crisis or Crisis on Infinite Earths, when Superman was holding Supergirl.
Crisis on Infinite Earths. Yeah.
It's going to be like that, with like Sherry or like Talios in his arms, just like dead. It's like, oh.
I was gonna say, take Dalius at this point. Don't take Cheery. She's an innocent kid with so much more life to live.
She's gonna become a pilot at the age of like 13 when she's done being a Skywalker.
Yeah, right.
She's gonna be a Sky Flyer.
Thank you, Thrawn.
All right. Anything else before we wrap it up? That's what she said.
Mando Friday. We
Mando
got Mando
Friday.
and
Episode 6. Next week's Mando is a 2-parter. We're gonna be covering 7 and 8. So we'll just do 1 hour-long episode. I was gonna do 2 episodes, but I was like, I don't want to edit that, even though it takes 2 seconds. I was like, I don't want to do that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
So we'll just do 1 supersized episode, but that's in 2 weeks because Friday is episode 6. And this book is also going to be finished in 2 weeks. And we will have finished our 3rd book.
Very exciting.
All right, where is my thingy?
We're on
All right.
street, guys.
So that does it for another episode of Cut the Sith Reading Club. Join us in 2 weeks as we finish Thrawn Ascendancy Chaos Rising with chapters 17 through 23, I believe. But it's just like 17 till the end of the book. And follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. Join our Discord. Like the video. Comment on the video. Subscribe to the video. Share the video with your friends. We only have like 10 views of video. Trying to get those numbers up. Our first video was like 45 views. Our like second one was 20, and then all of them after that's averaged about 10. So, trying to get these views up, Join us. Join the conversation. Head up into the Discord. May warriors' fortune smile on your efforts.